Hey everyone, Rich from Rich TCG Bets here. Hope you all are doing well. Wilds Unknown is finally dropping. It's not exactly where I want it to be as someone who's trying to master set it, but it is dropping significantly. So I wanted to take a look at where prices were 2 weeks ago, because I feel like that was kind of the high for Wilds Unknown versus where they are now, and discuss maybe why we're seeing these price decreases happening and just my overall thoughts on kind of what's going on with Wilds Unknown. So let's go ahead and dive right into the numbers. Okay, so no pretty slideshow today or anything like that. I was kind of rushed on time. I did a comparison of Wilds Unknown a few weeks ago just to take a look at pre-release, global release, and then 1 week after that to see how the price has changed. And I got a lot of comments on how TCG Player wasn't a true price. And I mentioned that in the video, how like, yes, I wasn't looking at eBay because it's hard to scrape, but for you all, I took a look at eBay and painstakingly went through each card one by one and looked at all the cards in their histories individually during a given time. So that's why you are stuck with Google Sheets here. But you can see pretty easily, this is sorted from highest to lowest based on June 12th and then June 26th. Today's June 27th. And so I ran these numbers yesterday for the most part and finished them off today. But it was basically giving like a 2 week period of where I kind of call the top of Wilds Unknown market to where we are today. Just going to go through the whole list right here. We're going to start with the Buzz Lightyear Iconic. So this, on average, raw, mind you, this wasn't a PSA 10 sale. This is raw, was going for just under $6,400 consistently on eBay. And by the way, all these sales have like 4 or 5 at least records around that time period. So for June 12th, I would look between the range of like June 11th and June 13th and get the sales. And I would make sure to at least grab like 4 or 5 so that it was like a better average and no outliers skewed it. I also included shipping because there were some cards that were being sold for $40 under average, but shipping was like $40. So anyways, let's just keep going. Buzz Lightyear was at $6,400. Now it's about $4,500. And so we see a huge drop of about 30%, which is pretty crazy if you think about it from like not having much experience with TCGs. But usually when a set comes out, we see it at its all-time highs on pre-release, maybe go up for like the first couple of days, but usually like after the opening week, that's when we see those big drops of 30, 40%. And we did not see that with Wilds Unknown at all. We saw the opposite happening where a lot of cards started to skyrocket, and it wasn't everything consistently. It was the Buzz Lightyear at first, then it was You've Got a Friend of Me, then Merida, then Alien, and now we're kind of seeing that with Jessie. We were just seeing a bunch of stuff explode from the get-go and consistently like rise and rise and rise and rise, which was pretty crazy up until like that June 12th date, like I mentioned. So 30% drop to me is like, yeah, that's kind of crazy if you bought a raw card at that price and you basically lost almost $2,000. Like that kind of sucks. But that's why you don't buy singles this close to release. Unless you get them for a good price or you're not paying a ridiculous amount of money and you're okay with losing them. Merida, similar story. This card on a release is going for like $800 and then spiked up to average sales was $3,700 around the 12th and now has dropped to $2,300, which is the highest drop of about 38% drop from just a 2 week period, which is crazy. But honestly, I love this Merida card. I think it's really good. But it was definitely not like a $3,700 Iconic. And I know Iconics hold a lot of just like value because they are so difficult to pull. But comparing it to all the other cards out there, to me, it is better than the Hades and Ariel. But again, $3,700 right out the gate did not make sense to me. You've Got a Friend of Me, the first Pixar card to feature, the first Arcana card to feature the most iconic Pixar characters, Buzz and Woody, was on average $890. There were sales at $1,000, which is crazy, but the average was $890 for that time period. It's dropped 23% to about $685. And right now we're seeing sales consistently go for like $650, $640. So we're continuing to see this card drop quite a bit, which is perfect for me because I'm on the market for wanting to look for this card. And Closer to 600 is a lot more reasonable than closer to $1,000. I'll tell you that much. Alien True Believer. This one, not that big of a drop, but going from about 593 to 525, and it's still settling at above 500. But we are seeing some sales in Facebook groups and TCG Player and eBay at that like 450 price. So I expect this card to drop quite a bit too. Jessie from Toy Story got all the hype for Toy Story 5. No spoilers, but Toy Story 5 and Jessie kind of go synonymous with each other. And the average was getting close to 600, or sorry, close to 450-ish is where we were seeing the highs. Some sales around $500, but it's now settled down to about 346. And I'm not going to go through every other card, but I will call out that Mrs. Incredible was, according to the market, undervalued. You could see that she was going for 182 a couple weeks ago, and her average sales are now around $216, which I think is funny that her and Mr. Incredible are like $8 difference on average based off of eBay last sales for raw cards, which is pretty funny because they basically are kind of like the same, like tiered for me. Same movie, husband and wife. So being like basically the same price is pretty cool. But that is up almost 19%. That's the biggest growth outside of what else I can do. But this one going from 91 to 110, it's like a $19 jump, like that makes sense. But this one is closer to $34, which is a lot bigger, obviously. You can do simple math, but the what else can I do is more playable, and so people are wanting to bling out their decks, and we're seeing similar climbs with Milo as well too. He is actually down 7%, but I would have thought that card would have dropped a lot harder, but because it is getting some playability, it is staying pretty high up there. And the other card that's getting quite a bit of playability is Zipper. I was actually able to get this card for I think $70 or $75, and so the average sales are going for $95. Definitely makes me happy that I got it for a bargain. So I wanted to actually just go through a couple of these to just showcase kind of like what's happening on both the graded and non-graded, just kind of validate my numbers. But you can see here with the iconic Buzz, we had a sale yesterday for basically $8,004 when you include shipping. We got 8,000. There's that raw for 5,000 and a raw for $3,500. What a steal. That is an absolute steal, especially with the average being still $4,500. Getting it 1,000 less is pretty awesome. And then $8,000. This one's a pristine pop 2. I'm not going to really count that in the PSA analysis. But then if we go back just a little bit ago, so around the 12th, and this is kind of like what I did to get the data, just giving you guys a little bit of a view. I said, okay, what was the raw going for? You got 5,900, 6,000, 6,200, 6,500, 6,250, and then that's too far out of the time range, but then 7,500. I don't think I included that one, so that number would probably be a lot higher. But then you even got PSA sales of like right here, 13,500. Let's see if we can find another one. $22,000 for a PSA 10 Buzz Lightyear. You've got some, I don't even know, Ace. That's the same card listed twice, I think. Yeah, same seller, interesting. But yeah, you could see cards were going a lot higher. Tag, $12,000. And now you can get a PSA version of this card for significantly less, for $8,000. So even the PSA side of these iconics are dropping quite a bit. Again, with Merida, let's see if we can find a recent PSA 10. This is a BGS Pristine 10, 13,000 recent sales. And we have a lower pop, I'm pretty sure, for these cards. So we might still see some higher volume. We got 13,000 again on the 19th. Let's try to look back during that time period. I just don't think there was anything graded. 15,000. So it's definitely dropped a couple $1,000s so far, but that's not as anywhere near as significant of a drop as the Buzz Lightyear. And yeah, it just seems like not a lot of people are selling these cards or getting these cards graded, which is why we don't see as crazy as a drop. So why do I think this is happening? First off, like, no one knows why this is happening. There's no science behind it. But my speculation is one of a few things is happening, if not one, the combination of them. We have Attack of the Vines that's going to be coming out basically in a few weeks, and a lot of people are hyped for that set. There hasn't been a lot revealed, so I don't get where a lot of the hype's coming from, but I think they're just piggybacking off the success of Wilds Unknown, seeing how Fabled, Winterspell, Whispers in the Well are doing really well too. So people have the mindset of like, this set's going to do really well. I want to get the iconics. I want to grade them. I want to make my 15K getting a PSA 10 on these cards as quick as possible, because that's kind of what we're seeing right now in the Lorcana market. So I think a lot of people are trying to sell off some of their cards, both graded and ungraded right now, to start funding for Attack of the Vine so that they can be the first to have the valuable cards and they could be the first to grade them. And so because of that, we're seeing a little bit of a race to the bottom. Number two, I don't want to say we were in a bull market and now we're in a bear market of Lorcana. Like, I don't think that happens so fast. But there was a lot of hype coming into this game that I think took these prices not to places they should never be, but places they probably shouldn't have been a month and a half, 2 months after release. You know, I truly believe in this game. I love these cards, especially in Wilds Unknown. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be master setting this set, and that's the first time I'm doing that with a Lorcana set. I just love Pixar. I love Toy Story specifically, and I love The Incredibles. But like, for these cards to jump up so much, it just didn't make sense that it was happening so fast. If we go back to the Raw, I kept it hidden, but like in just 2 weeks, the Enchanteds and Iconics have dropped 26.5% basically. So like a pretty huge drop. And I think this is more just kind of correcting to like where they should be. Again, still very valuable cards, the Buzz being around $4,500 and the Merit around $2,300. I can still see them dropping a little bit, but they're going to be really valuable cards, a lot more valuable than previous sets for sure. But like, I think that's the second reason why prices are dropping. Is just you're getting a lot of correction with this. And then the third is just coming from people wanting to get into this hobby and try to make a bag really quick. I think a lot of people were just trying to buy up cards, grade cards, and not having the quick turnarounds of PSA that we have had in years past, or of other grading companies, or just like the quick turnaround of selling cards. Like with Pokemon, there's so much more of an established fan base of collectors and players and investors than there is in Lorcana, that I think people just bought up a lot of these cards, saw that the demand isn't quite there yet, and are just trying to dump and drop the bag before they get caught with it. That third reason to me like doesn't really seem like the reason, but I just wanted to throw that out there that like I think that could happen. Really, I think we're just seeing a bit of a price correction and people trying to sell some of their collections so that they can fund for the next set, which makes sense to me. I've done that in Pokemon. I've done that in other TCGs in my life, and so I've done that a little bit in Lorcana as well too. It totally makes sense. And overall, these cards are still great. I still believe in Wilds Unknown. The booster box prices are still holding at cases like for $1,000, which is crazy. And we're not really seeing that drop a ton. And with Attack of the Vine coming out, I think, I don't want to say we close the chapter for Wilds Unknown, because reprints can always happen. But as more and more sets come out, the less chances I think we're going to see of those products. And that's going to make the sealed versions of them a lot more rare. But that's all I got for you. Wanted to go over some of this data and just kind of tell you what I'm seeing. Like I said, this is great news for me, because that means I can start buying maybe a few more of these cards in the next week or two. I'll continue to monitor prices, and like I said, hopefully if they drop a little bit more, that would be great. I would love to see some of these Enchanteds get a little bit cheaper, especially if you've got a friend of me can go back to like 500. I am snagging that up. I've already got the Alien, but next for me outside the Iconics is You've Got a Friend in Me and Jesse and some of the Incredibles. So that's all I got for you. Have a great weekend. I'll see you all next video.